Welcome back, fellow travel warriors. I'm Steve.
And I'm George.
Join us as we unpack the challenges, excitement, preparation,
And passion for travel.
Greetings, George. How's it feel to be back home, back from Brazil? This is our wrap-up episode on all things Brazil, and certainly really enjoyed taking a look at the links that you posted down in the description on the last episode. Just beautiful pictures. And so I did have a few questions actually, as we wrap this part of the exploration of Brazil. I'm really interested in the Sugarloaf Mountain cable car. I really love cable cars, trams, that kind of thing. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
The Sugarloaf cable car, that was part of the city tour that I did. So I didn't go there on my own. I probably would have done that, where I just reserve a half a day or most of the day to do one thing. But I decided to do a city tour that included the Christ of the Redeemer and seeing other sites in and around Rio, as well as Sugarloaf Mountain. To be honest, Stevie, I didn't do 100% research. I just kind of wanted to be pleasantly surprised. One of the thing that makes it a great attraction is this unique shape, and it's on the sort of like the northeast part of Rio. So you have great views when you're on the top. You have great views of Copacabana Beach on sort of, if you're looking out towards that way, on your left side, and then you have kind of the Christ the Redeemer, sort of at like 1 o'clock on your clock dial. But before you get to Sugarloaf Mountain, there's actually a shorter mountain that you have to kind of get off first. It doesn't go straight from the bottom, from street level. It doesn't go straight to Sugarloaf. It goes to another mountain called Morro de Orca, and you get off there. And both there and the top of Sugarloaf, they have shops. They have some places to eat, some ice cream. They have a lot of the acai berries you can get. You can get a lot of the kind of refreshments and sort of ice cream when you get to both those levels. So they offer unique views. They're 360 views of Rio, so you can kind of walk around both Morro de Orca and Sugarloaf, and you can see all of Brazil. You can see towards the north the airport, and you can watch the planes take off. And it's really sort of, it looks close, but it's really, really far away in a sense. And then you can see the planes taking off, which was pretty neat. The other thing that was pretty neat is that you're really up in the clouds. And we had some great views, great pictures that I took. And then all of a sudden, the clouds came in and you couldn't see anything. So, try to go, obviously, on a day where there's good weather, no clouds or no expected clouds. But you know how it is. If you're around a mountain, there's always going to be clouds around.
And so this cable car, is it going to different mountaintops, and are you getting off of it? Are you exploring? Is there something to see there when you get off? Explain to me the whole ride on that.
Well, the first stop is really just two stops. You got Morro de Orca. That's the first stop. You get off. It's mandatory. You get off there, and again, there's places to eat. There's lookout places. There at that level, they do. So this cable car was built over 100 years ago, this cable system, and was built by a German company, and was told that they've never had an accident, ever. So that was reassuring that no one's plunged down and died. But they did have, it looked like the original cable car with a statue of probably the guy that designed it, and from 100 years ago. And then they had like cable car version 2.0, which is probably something they used maybe 30, 40 years ago. And then, of course, the cable cars they have now. Also, at that level, you can take a helicopter ride to go see the Christ of the Redeemer. So you can pick up a helicopter, and I think it's just like a 5 minute ride, 10 minute ride. I was watching, or I was looking at a sort of, where it goes and how much it costs, and it was, I think, pretty inexpensive, like 30, $40 for a 10 minute ride over to see the Christ of the Redeemer and come back. So that wasn't part of our tour. So, but if you went on your own and was brave enough to get into a helicopter,
Hmm.
you could do that. And then from there, now again, I was in a tour, so we really had, when we got there first, we didn't have time to explore. We had to go to the backside of Morro de Orca and then get on the second tram that takes you all the way up to Sugarloaf. And it's sort of the same thing. It's really geared up there for 360-degree views and taking pictures. They do have places to eat, but it's more or less, getting that great view of Rio from that side of the city.
Now, George, was there other? I mean, overall, what did you think of the tour operator? And would you recommend the tour operator for those that may be traveling to Rio soon? And would you recommend that tour operator in that particular tour?
I would. I went through TripAdvisor. I did get the gentleman's name and his card. I can put a link there to them, and I can put a link to the actual tour itself. Um,
Okay,
it
good.
was about 175 US dollars. I did find a 10% discount code or a promo code that I used, so it came out to like $153, um, something like that. I thought that was pretty reasonable for an all day. It
Yes,
was
sounds like
Christ
it.
the Redeemer. Yeah, it was the train ride up there. It was, all the entry fees. It was seeing all the sights and sounds of Rio in that day, and then having an all-you-can-eat Brazilian style buffet, um,
That
and
must have
then
been
doing
good.
the Sugarloaf Mountain. So I thought it was worth it. It was really good. It was really good. Overall, it was great. They pick you up basically at 7:30 in the morning, and then they drop you off sometime around 5 p.m. So it is a full day.
Oh, that's really nice. And did you have a lot of energy after coming back from all the excitement of getting on the cable car and going to the Christ Redeemer and or you pretty much were done after that?
I mean, it was tiring. You're in a van with 16, 17 other people. I had walked a lot the day before, and I was going to go on that hike for the two brothers the next day. And at that time in April, the sun sets around 5:45. So I wasn't keen on spending a lot of time outside after dark. So I was glad to be back at the Airbnb and get ready for the next day.
And as far as the food and the did you pick up any? Did you go eat afterwards? Where did you pick up dinner? Did you go to any? I mean, you had I imagine you ate beef, right? For your lunch buffet,
I
Brazilian
did.
steak kind of thing.
I
And
did.
from your Airbnb, was there a lot of other eateries and places? Were there dessert shops, things like that, coffee
Yes,
shops?
outside. Yeah, even downstairs on street level of the Airbnb, there was a sort of a juice like place where you can get juices and drinks and pastries and sandwiches. They had a whole bunch of those types of eateries up and down the street that I was on. So you couldn't go more than a block in either direction without getting some sort of food. So I did that a little bit, just got something. Uh, I had such a big meal at lunch. I didn't really need to eat a whole bunch at night.
Did you meet any expats or other, any Americans that were on the tour?
On the tour, there was a group of 9 ladies, 8 or 9, that I spoke English. I didn't ask where they were from, because they did kind of talk over, or not talk over, but talk a lot during when we were in the van, and our guide was trying to go over the highlights of, or what our next stop was going to be, and they kept on talking. It was kind of frustrating. There was, I think, a family from Paraguay that was there. There was a couple that was from France, and another couple that spoke. I can't remember if it was, they did speak Portuguese, or they were from a Spanish speaking country. So, but I didn't really befriend really anybody. One thing I will say, Steve, is that English is not widely spoken in Brazil, both in Iguazu and in Rio. At least where I was at, if I got into an Uber or a taxi, or I was somewhere to eat, even the guys at the front desk, when you check into the Airbnb, they didn't speak a lick of English. So
Were,
there was a
were you
lot
surprised
of,
at them?
a little bit, but I did read that English is not widely spoken, because we've been places, out of the country where English is widely spoken, but Brazil is not. So there was a lot of, I have Google Translate on my phone, and so, and they did too. So if they were smart enough to know where we couldn't speak, we would get our phones out, go to Google Translate, type it in there, and then show it to them, and it worked out fine.
Now, when you arrived in Rio, did you take a shuttle to the hotel or the Airbnb?
No, it was about 30 minutes away. The airport, GIG is the airport code. It's about a good 30-minute taxi ride to where I was at, towards Copacabana and Ipanema Beach. So it was, you can take a bus and taxis and stuff like that. I took a
Mm-hmm.
taxi, from the airport to the Airbnb. It was about 10 o'clock at night. I'm sure they do have shuttles in the town, towards that area, but I was just going to just get into a taxi and make it as easy as possible for myself at that time of night.
Now, I think you did mention something about a shuttle and some kind of a unique um, service that you uncovered. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so before I went down to Brazil, I did stay in Miami one night, because I wanted to go see a baseball game. I was watching the Angels and the Marlins play, so I did stay at an ISG property called, Even Hotels. And so when I got off the plane, went to baggage claim, got my bags, I walked through the doors, followed the sign to hotel shuttle, and I went out there, and I kind of waited for a few minutes to see if the shuttle would come by, and nothing. So I called the hotel. And when I listened to the playback of the airport shuttle option, it said something that was I had never seen and done before. And what it did is it told you where the shuttle picks you up, drops you off, and what zones or what gates, outside what gates there in Miami. And
Right.
it also gave you a website called trackmyshuttle.com. And in the recording, it gives you a code, a 4-digit code. I pulled up trackmyshuttle.com, put in the 4-digit code, and then there it is. There's a map from the hotel to the airport, and then there's the little shuttle. And it runs every 30 minutes, so I sort of where your shuttle is. Unfortunately, when I pulled it up, the shuttle was still at the hotel. I didn't catch it right on the hour or on the 30 minutes, so I did have to
Right.
wait about 20 minutes before to get there. And so I thought, I've never heard of that before. So when I checked in to the hotel, I asked them about it, and they said that they had just started the service in the last few weeks. And I thought that was pretty neat, because sometimes you do, we've been to so many airports where there's a shuttle that runs, every 15 minutes there's a hotel shuttle coming. I can think of like Chicago Midway because they have that cluster of hotels there close by, and so I thought that was pretty neat and wanted to share that with you.
That's great. What other things that you really wanted to do but realized that you didn't have time to? And let me ask you this: is Rio or another city like Sao Paulo, is that appeal to you? Is it alluring to maybe on another trip either go there or what's your final impressions of Brazil, the trip? Um, which, one more thing, I think you had some issues originally, uh, I think, with the visa or the potential of needing a visa to go to Brazil. Do you want to touch on that?
Yes, great question, Steve. So I had read from last year that Brazil was implementing a new visa policy for the US, Canada, and I forget what other country, and that you would need to do that, which is not really a big deal. We've been to plenty of countries where you have to, it's not visa free, you have to pay a fee. And I thought it was going to start in January, but it was going to start April 10th. So I did sign up online, paid the $80, did what it asked me to do. And I did sort of messed up on the picture. You have to take a
Mm-hmm.
picture. And long story short, going back and forth, I got rejected. They really couldn't tell me why, and then really I had to go through the closest Brazilian consulate to get it worked, figured out, and that was in Houston, and I had to be there in person. So I wasn't gonna waste time doing that. So I ended up moving up my trip, which was scheduled for the middle of April. So I was gonna arrive after April 10th. I ended up moving it to the beginning of April. One of the reasons why I picked the middle to the end of April is because it is the fall. They're in the southern hemisphere, and the weather is starting to get cooler. Brazil is really close to the equator, so it's a tropical place. It is warm, but it does kind of cool off when it starts heading into the winter months. When I got to Iguazu, which is sort of in southern Brazil, it was in the 90s that first couple of days I was there, and the heat index was over 100. I did check the weather now as I was going to be there, and it was basically 10 to 15 degrees cooler, and that's what I was planning for. Also, in my opinion, it's a good time to go because they also have pretty good flights out of Miami. So Miami is a big hub to fly down to South America or Central America, and so they do start having some sort of cheaper airfares going down. So to me, I always knew this time of the year, April, May, I was going to go down there. It just happened to be this year. Now, going back to the visa requirement, I was curious, but before we jumped on here, Steve, and to see what the latest on the visa requirement, and I can't believe it. They have now pushed it to April 10th, 2025. They have now, and that's for tourists. Yeah, so now they must have had so many issues, and probably myself included, that they just, whatever reason, they're just not ready to handle whatever requirement. Now, we'll say this to our listeners that are wanting to go down to Brazil. One of the requirements that was unique was that you did have to show and submit a bank statement of at least $2,000 in your account.
Could you like
So,
snippet
um,
uh, your online account and upload that, or how did you do that?
to be honest, I didn't get to that part. So when I applied for it, it asked for like your passport information, then a photo, and that's where it stopped you. I never got past that point where it required additional information. So I was assuming that once I got past the picture phase, that then they would start asking for the other things and that be included. So up until that time, I didn't have to submit anything, but that was one of the requirements. Now, going forward, up until April, next April 10th, I don't know if there'll be a requirement or not, but that'll be something to look at.
Well, George, it seems like you covered all the wrap up items for this trip. So excited to see the pictures and look like just an overall fantastic trip. Would you agree?
It was. Everything went according to plan. Again, that was part of the preparation for travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
I prepared enough to know. Again, I did leave some a little bit for the excitement. Were there any challenges? For me, the challenge was before I got there was the visa. That was my challenge was, okay, I got rejected. I can't go on April 14th or April 12th, whatever day I originally planned. Now I have to move the trip. So that kind of touches the challenges, excitement, preparation, and then again the passion for travel. It's so exciting to go to somewhere new, especially somewhere new. I always enjoy going to places that we've been before, but I'm not one to go back to the same place over and over and over again.
Understand.
This is a huge planet. There's 195, 96 countries, hundreds of islands. There's so much to see on this planet that I'm ready to go somewhere else. And even though I had a great time in Rio and a great time in Iguazu, and I would love to go back, there's plenty of other places to explore in Brazil and in the countries around there. So, but overall, it was a great trip, and I recommend anybody to go down there.
Well, George, thanks again for your insights and sharing all the really the nuances of this trip. And so we want to thank everyone for joining us. And please join our ever growing community of travel warriors. And let's keep this journey going together.
And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to stay updated on our latest episodes. Until next time, safe travel.